Hey, happy Saturday. We're all here. You can't see me, but we're all here. How's your day, Rage? How's your day, Suit? I know we're all just waking up. All three of us. We're just
tired. It is a tired day.
We streamed all night, Rage, and we got to level 30 in Lost Ark just about in that one sitting.
That's pretty good. Really good.
It doesn't take very long.
No.
As it turns out.
And then after the stream, I accidentally clicked play on Kenshi again.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
So then you just didn't sleep at all.
Really dangerous.
Yeah, I was up till 4:20. At 4:20, I was like, "Oh, big dab! I should probably sleep now."
I played Zomboid again for pretty late because we were using it for a lot of inspiration, and then we started watching some TV shows that are all inspiration. The next thing you know, it's fucking 6 a.m.
Whoopsie!
Ooh, that's the sun. That's not good. That's not good.
You jerk! I didn't ask for you yet. Get out of here.
Look at the daylight savings already. What happened? How many hours ago?
Not daylight savings, just fucking daylight. All right, we get to go back to the magic system. Do we remember what the last thing we reviewed is? We were doing skills last time.
We were, and I don't remember. I remember we did things, but not what those things were.
Do you want to look at them?
Magic. Magic time.
This is actually looking like game data. Look at this. This looks like something you would actually see in a game. Oh my god. It looks like a game.
Did we do it? Did we make a game?
Almost. Determine difficulty of task. Yeah, we've here we. Oh yeah, remember we had the secondary stats that could influence it. So this is the main one, and then these ones are worth half of the value. So if you have 4 appeal and 1 influence, you can actually get a value of 2 in your persuade from having good appeal or wisdom. We may still change that, but that's how it currently works. We got our listing of the cruds, conversation skills, information skills, physical skills. Use the skill, tell how susceptible the target will be, spot a rube, basically. You can begin to demand specific information. You can apply your influence to crowds rather than just individuals. Become a damn politician. And then influence the actions of others. Become a damaging politician. All right. This is good to know, good to remember. To do, deal with edge case of max CR 5 being 5. Deal with edge case of max CR being 5 due to CR of skill being based on skill it would take to do it and max skill being 5. Okay. I kind of understand what that is saying now. Do you follow that?
Nope.
Yeah. I just remember the controversy. It's what I remember. Are we ready for this again?
It's determining the challenge rating of a task, and currently the max challenge rating for any task is 5 because the max skill you need to do any task is 5.
Well, even more so, the max skill you can have to do anything is 5.
Yeah.
Which is why we were arguing over the level 5 physical skill being, breaking the limits, your limits, so to speak.
Yeah, right. We don't have the absolute understanding of what 5 is on physical skills yet. And that's fine. We don't need to figure that out now. I don't think we have enough to come up with a decision right now. Not even just brain power. I don't think we have enough of the game built to fully understand where that has to go for endgame.
Or, consciousness, collectively.
Yeah. Is it in combat system? Oh, no. That's skills. Yeah, magic's in combat. Okay. Yeah, we did all magic in here. Yep. Should we start a new magic document? I think we should start a new magic document.
Yeah, probably.
Create and share. Magic systems. Type @ to insert. I don't want to inserts. I don't want the inserts. Here you go, have a cyberpunk chest.
Ooh, so chesty.
I wonder when that game's gonna come out.
We've been waiting for so long.
One day it'll be done.
If I'm honest, I really want it to have the No Man's Sky experience where it launches and it's kind of shit. And then eventually they just keep putting work into it and it's good. I want that. I want that to happen. I don't know if it's going to, but I want that to happen.
Let me just update bot real quick so that it tells you about this new magic link. Save. Play. There we go. There's a link for you guys too.
Ooh.
Magic system. Magic system.
Mujic.
What kind of game has magic systems?
This kind of game.
Okay. All right, let's review magic systems. I don't have my camera on, by the way, because I'm eating a crepe with strawberry. I don't want to make people jealous.
Strawberry.
Remember the first time I tried to make pancakes, I made crepes by accident. I was a kid. So I was upset, right? Because kids get upset when they fail. And then, thankfully, my family's like, no, these are actually just crepes. They're a real thing. And I'm like, you're lying. And they're like, no, look, this is a real thing. I'm like, oh, okay. Neat. So every time I hear crepes, I always think back to like, I always just associated with like failed pancakes until I had like actually good crepes. I'm like, oh, these are actually amazing.
That's fucking wonderful. Thank you for that story.
Yeah, that's what happens when you forget about baking powder.
I mean, every kid makes mistakes like that when they start cooking. I remember I remember one time I screwed up mac and cheese, so it was like the first time I ever tried to make myself anything. My mom was out and wasn't coming back anytime soon. My stepdad was gone with her. I was left home alone for one of the first times. I was super hungry. I was like, I need food. Put it all on, started boiling it, started playing a video game, forgot about everything, boiled it dry, noodles turned into mush. Not even the dog would eat it. The dog literally sniffed it and ran away.
Dog knew better.
Yeah. It was a boxer, too. She wasn't picky. She was a goddamn Hoover. Okay. Spheres of influence. We have... This is not magic related. This was laid out so that we could understand it for magic. That's just stats, which is actually still tracked
in the stats document.
In the just stats document, yes. Yes. Spheres, areas, influences, whatever. Magic system doesn't need to be there twice. Magic argument time. We'll call it magic questions now since we've agreed on them. Does everyone use magic? No. Is magic a class? No. Can magic be learned after creation or is it innate? Can be learned so players can pick it up later. So things to talk about as we go through this will be what changes when a player gets magic. We talked about, maybe there being a natural immunity to magic if you don't have it. Not a full immunity, but maybe some immunity. A little less likely to happen to you because perhaps you don't fully understand it / believe in it kind of thing. Maybe it could kind of take after voodoo.
just completely bereft of its influence whatsoever.
But that doesn't mean that the changed world around you can't impact you, but yeah, it would be more like a resistance to...
But the magic itself...
Yeah, it would be a resistance to, like...
Somebody could still...
A mage turning the iron in your blood into sulfur. That would be a terrible thing to happen.
Well for you.
No, that would be a bad time. It's true. Hesitation is defeat. Okay. We can remove these. Magic is non-physical.
Although it does make me think we may want to include primary, secondary stats for these spheres of influence.
We can look at it. For sure. It does kind of lend itself to mixing magics. But mixing magics is also fucking strong. And how easy do we want it to do that?
Well, and keep in mind, you would still need a lot of stats to be able to mix at a high level, because your primary is what determines how high level you can make those skills. Although now that I think about it, the cost for magic increases. Like going from level 1 to level 2 magic isn't that big, but going from level 2 magic to level 3 magic is fucking huge. So this may need to be a exponential scale, whereas combat could potentially be linear for point spend.
Yeah, I definitely think magic has to be a more expensive investment than the other skills. Because it is strong. And that is how it balances, is a bigger investment. So if you're physical, you can advance faster, you can get there faster, you can be more effective earlier on. Which follows the progression tree of a mage and warrior in D&D really well. And they've done a lot of work on it to get it to where it is. So I'm not opposed to following their patterns on that one. Mage starts super weak and eventually curves off in power where nothing else could ever rival them when they get to the end. But at the beginning, a level 1 fighter would fucking work them over.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a good thing with different leveling arcs, because that creates a good party feel, right? They can work together really well. In the early days, the warrior will carry the mage, and then later on, the mage will make up for the warrior's shortcomings.
I'm going to reconnect to the Video Ninja real quick, because it has decided it doesn't actually want to send enough data. So I'll be right back.
Okay. Possible secondaries. Man, we're all kind of brain dead, aren't we? We need to get the brain juices flowing here.
I'm the only picture left. This is my show now.
Look at me! I am the show now! I can do this too. Bam! Double pseudo.
Whoa. That's too many pseudos.
The world is not ready. Do we have a rage back? We don't have a rage back. Okay, I've removed this. Let's start with a review of what all the magic systems are and do when rage gets back. Damn it, Nick! You're screwing up, Nick!
Little net he had ran away.
Cost to cast a spell. This is where we're going to have to kick it up. This is what we need to work on next. That'll get us going. So let's review the types as soon as Rage reboots. Oh, we don't need him here for this. Let
Get
me
started, at
let me
least.
get some food. Okay, let's do this. Since Rage is rebooting and we've got a bunch of people in chat and not everyone is super familiar, shoot out the questions on what's happening right now if you're wondering about this system. If you have any questions while I shovel this little bit of strawberry in my mouth, we'll do our best to answer you. And when Rage gets back, we're going to go over what the different spheres of influence in the magic system are, and then we're going to start working out how to determine a cost for them so that we can help balance this. Because it is overpowered. And we've acknowledged this right from the beginning. And I'm glad to hear you're negative for the plague.
That's good.
Ah, get on my fork, you jerk. The strawberry is so ripe and soft and sweet that every time I stabbed it with my fork, my fork just came out of it and left holes in it.
Oh no.
Makes for really delicious strawberry, though.
Yeah.
Hey, I see a Rage.
Yay. Yeah, my whole machine was choking, apparently. I have no idea what was causing it, but a reboot fixed it.
Well, you're not sending video anymore.
That's interesting, because on my end I am at 3 megabit per second.
Might just need to try grabbing it again or refresh the
Oh, there we go.
browser.
Just came through. Just came through. Let's get you back in the scene. Let's get me back in the scene. Hey, we're here. The breakfast is done. The tea is still being consumed. It's past 4:20, so I better catch up. And I'm Canadian, so I like ketchup.
Especially on chips.
I love it on my potatoes in the morning. That's my thing. Anytime I have potatoes in the morning, gotta have some ketchup on it. So good. I love it. Grew up on it. All right. So, update for you while you were gone. I deleted a bunch of shit.
Nice.
It's gone. It was all stuff that, like, little notes. Do we want to do this? Do we want to think about this? That we're done with. We're down to the data now. So let's review the areas, the influences. Quick review for everybody else. Our magic system has no spells. There's no book for you to reference. There's no magic missile. There's no fireball. There's no cure. There's nothing. It's up to
it's not
you.
Yet, if once you're aware, I guess there's nothing stopping the player from their character making a book with stuff that they found out and things they've combined in the past.
You could totally make your own spell book for sure, but you don't need one.
Yeah. No.
That's an interesting mechanic. Not mechanic, but flavor for a character, though.
Yeah, I like they're versed in it. And it's part of the craft, right? Especially if you're playing around with the physics of the world, and you figure out how to make fire, but you got to figure out how to actually throw it, and then you figure that out, and then maybe it's something we can build in where if they figure something out like that, or if they come up with some combo they like, they can give it their own name, so they don't have to go through the whole spiel of it again. And if the DM's familiar with it too, they can just say, I do this, and
Yep.
it just means like a sequence of steps that they've done in the past to do an action. It gets kind of complicated.
I can
It's
tell.
also a use of our research and knowledge and wisdom skills, which we didn't really have a use for up until now.
Yeah, but it's not a necessity still, which is nice. I like the option, and it's just kind of cool that you can just kind of RP a modern day Merlin. Like, you just walk around in a robe and wizard hat in modern day, and everybody just kind of laughs at you, but you can actually do magic. I like this character idea now. I'm getting all sorts of fun ideas for when we play test.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the areas of influence we have are force, which I think is clear. It's a physics level forces influence, kinetic, potential, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Centrifugal forces could be fun to play with. Yeah.
Physics nerd, there's no such thing as centrifugal force. There's only centripetal force.
Okay, someone's paying attention. Fine. And then energy. So how do force and energy differ?
Energy is the potential as opposed to force being the active application of that energy. So if you wanted to build up a charge in something, you would need to use energy magic, unless you were to use force magic to use friction to create that charge.
Are we comfortable with this separation between force and energy?
I mean, I think it makes sense.
Does anybody in chat have any confusion on the difference between force and energy? And if you can think of really interesting fringe cases where, like, what would this one be? Please ask. Please ask. What about mixing them together? What happens when you use force and energy?
You would probably need somebody with more creativity than I'm feeling right now to come up with a good use for it. But you could, like, use force to move a conductor while using energy to generate electricity in it and turn it into, like, its own little contained railgun.
That's fun. That's fun. You could do that just with force, though.
No, because you would still need to generate the electromagnetic pulse.
Well, that's assuming you want to fire it with an electromagnetic pulse. You could just create a forward force behind the metal shard in a chamber.
Yeah, if you had level 4 force, you could do that. If you only had level 3, for instance, it would be easier to aim it using update and then create the energy behind it to create the
that
pulse
would be
in
4.
order to fire the projectile.
You were saying if you only had 3.
Yeah, if you only had 3 force but 4 energy.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, and then you could use the energy to create electromagnetic energy. And then launch
you
it
could
with
even
that.
use that EMP, launch it, and apply it inside somebody's brain, and they just fall over dead.
Actually, I kind of like that force idea. An EMP pulse touch. Just like touch something and an EMP pulse shoots out of your finger and fries all the
EMP
electronics
pulse?
in the... Yeah, shut up.
Yeah, to go with your
Electromagnetic
ATM
pulse.
machine.
Yeah, the EMP pulse to take out the ATM machine. It is morning. It is morning for us. It is. So I'm not too worried about that. They are kind of similar. I think a bunch of examples will go a long way in the definition, and I think playtesting will really decide if there's too much confusion. If there's too much time with us going, is that this, is that that, in the playtesting, we may have to define it stricter, better.
We may. I still think, like, using the physics definitions of the two makes it very clear. Like, force is its own thing, whereas energy is a subset of force. Well, it's a component of force. You need energy to create force.
They're kind of the same thing at that point, though. You know, if I can create the force by creating an energy...
You can also create energy by creating a force.
Yeah, exactly.
And
They may end up being the
that's
same
fine.
thing. They may end up being the same thing. If we can come up with another 6th option, I'm totally okay with calling it force/energy.
It'd just be the physics magic.
Well, there's also matter, which is kind of physics, but yeah, it's definitely
Not
more
really physics.
it's definitely more the physics mage, and it's all under knowledge, which makes a lot of sense. I don't think I like the idea of having to spend points on both of them. I think it's pretty balanced to have them both be the same one, because matter and life and senses and thoughts are fucking huge spheres and super powerful. Maybe less
what if
combat, but
What if we combine those two? What if we combine force and energy and combine senses and thoughts? Because your illusion mage, like who can trick the senses, can effectively create thoughts in an individual just by implanting things into their perception. And then we have one school for each stat.
I kind of like it. I'm hesitant to just jump on that train, though. We have to beat this horse a little bit before we decide to nuke a couple ideas. Do you have any input, Pseudo, or is your brain just still fried?
I'm pretty fried. I'll interject randomly when I can.
No worries, no worries. That's why I asked instead of just putting you on a spot. And you're right, I did not play Pyromancer in Dark Souls 2 or 3. I did play Pyromancer in Dark Souls 1, though, and that was fun.
So easy.
Yeah.
So strong.
Yep. That was what I did my first Manus run on, was that Pyromancer. My first Dark Souls 1 Pyromancer. That character was so fucking OP, though.
Oh, yeah. All it takes is souls. You don't need stats. You can be soul level 1 and just be insanely strong.
But I had the flame rope, what are they? Black hemmed rope. Black hemmed?
Oh, yeah. Black hemmed is
Yeah.
gold hemmed black robes.
Gold hemmed black robe, thank you. I had them on with a plus 15 Pyro Fist upgraded and a plus 5 Black Knight sword. It was GG.
Pyro is pretty broken in Dark Souls 1. And that's why the flavor of it was that pyromancy was the forbidden magic, because it just cost souls to do, and you know that was bad. You shouldn't take other things' souls. But yeah, Dark Souls.
Yep. Okay. So let's just call it force plus energy, I guess.
Physics. The physics mage.
So life healing. I'm going to propose something here. We haven't gotten to the HP system, but it is going to rely on the HP system. So I want to make a proposition here. I love Shadowrun HP. I would like to use a set maximum value of HP at character creation.
As in determined by your starting stats, or as in determined by point by?
Determined by your race, basically. And since it's everything's human, you just have you have this much life. And the theory behind it is it takes the same amount to kill a human, no matter what. Like if we all take the same amount of damage, we're all gonna die. But bigger, hardier bodies are better at resisting that damage and not taking as much damage from the same hit. If they do take the same damage, they still fucking die. But it can take more to cause the same damage. And then your increase in strength as you go is the ability to reduce damage through gear and stats. Soak the damage.
So let's put aside the assumption that everybody is human. let's think about what if there were other races, because we want this system to be flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Does it still make sense for everybody to just have 10 HP? And like that's just how much HP you have.
Well, if they're all the same, so let's say maybe there's elves and they could be balanced. They're maybe smaller, they have 8 HP. But they could also, because they're smaller and quicker, be better at dodging naturally, so they get a bonus to their dodging stat. So they take less to
Dodging
kill, but
stat or dodging skill?
The stat associated with dodging.
I don't really like that.
I don't like modifying the skills of a class, but they're naturally better at that skill. So, I may not be naturally good at dodging, but I'm an elf, so I'm naturally agile, so I can easily become better at dodging than somebody else who's not as agile as me.
So the way I see that kind of working then is that if our health pulls are never really increasing, then it's just, as you get stronger, you're just taking you're basically getting to the point where you're just not really ever taking damage.
Well,
you would wondering if
it depends what's attacking you, right? Like stronger, bigger, better things are coming at you. So in D&D, your hit points go up and your AC goes up, and if you start getting attacked by weaker things, they'll still never hit you because you've built up your stats, right? So
yeah, but the main thing is that like if you only have 10 health, like that's not a large pool to get hit from.
Mm-hmm.
So for most encounters, you're not really going to be getting hit. If you are getting hit, then it's going to be I guess it depends on.
Also,
It'll
our
still boils
largest
down to the same thing.
possible-
It's just, like of when do we want to just have a health pool that you're getting hit and you heal from, or do you want to have it that you just have to always be not getting hit or have constant heals? I'm not super sold on it because I always like the flexibility of just being able to show someone being stronger by having a slightly bigger health pool, so they have a little bit less worry if something can just hit them. They have a bit of an idea of taking 2 damages versus taking 5 damage in a fight.
Also, our largest possible delta is 30.
that's huge.
Yeah. That is our largest possible delta.
That is
'Cause it
going to
would
be a
be-
super rarity, though.
6 dice versus 6 dice, one rolling all ones, one rolling all sixes.
Yeah, that may never happen.
It's not as unlikely as shuffling the same deck, shuffling a deck into the same order twice, but it's pretty unlikely.
Um,
52 bang is a big number. It's a big number.
It is. It is an unfathomably large number. Let's pound out some HP stuff here. Let's figure out what we want to do about HP. It is kind of needed, I think, at this point to really decide where we're going.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the root of my issue is that 10 is too small of a number for us to balance around. I feel like 20 or 30 would be a better number.
Yeah, and I wasn't hard pressed on the idea of the number. I was just making a simple proposition so it's understandable.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what bothers me about it, and I think it's the number 10. I think there's just not enough wiggle room there.
I think Shadowrun uses 6 or 10 for HP, something like that. But again, because they're setting, it's a lot of guns and stuff like that. So for the most part, things deal like deadly damage. And that's kind of where their damage. What do they have? They have like 3 or 4 letters for their damage codes. Is how they do it. And then they have damage codes. So weapons will cause specifically like light or deadly damage or whatever, and that'll be a certain amount of boxes it fills in, and if all your boxes get filled in, you die. It is built more around getting hit less. There's more misses in their combat, which isn't necessarily a good thing. Like it doesn't feel great to be missing all the time in combat. It does make things take longer.
My My thought right now is if it's, a set health pool that doesn't change up, like just communicating, getting stronger. It's usually easier for like, at least like, not easier, but like one of the ways that a lot of games, do it is make that number higher. And then, it's communicated directly that, oh, you're stronger. It takes more to kill you. We can still do the same with, the armor and resistance and stuff. It's just maybe a little bit harder to notice it.
Yeah.
Because you still feel that, that number is still the same. And it takes, combat resolve, which it's not a bad thing. We just have to be a bit careful with, making sure that we're kind of going for, these characters are going to get really, really, really strong. And it may be harder to demonstrate that later if, they still feel like they can get, in a few bad rolls, they may just get, taken out, or like one bad hit.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. And I think if we approach it with a larger number, like, sure, it still doesn't show the progression as well, but it becomes a lot less likely that you're just going to get one shot.
Yeah. How do we feel about things getting one shot?
I don't think players...
Yeah, it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be a fun experience.
So, here's a Shadowrun's solution. Because they have the small health pool, how they address your concern is you can go negative health, and you're just unconscious at 0. Once you're down in combat, people aren't really going to focus on you. You're down. You need attention, but you're not dead and you're out of combat. Which is also the Kenshi approach.
And
Yeah,
also
it's-
D&D and all the other systems. And I'm not against an unconscious state. We just need to be careful with how we manage death, I think, because the death rolls in D20 are kind of lame.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, but even just like the one shot, I mean, it takes that player basically out of the game until things resolve. And if it can happen in just like a turn, it's not great, especially if we're kind of going for a sense of power kind of experience where you're supposed to be like super strong.
I agree. But, I mean, I guess we can't really account for extreme situations here. There's always the chance the player does a dumb. Yep. And that can cost them. That absolutely has to be able to cost them. But that's down to the GM. GM can always make it costly if he wants to.
Yeah, like the suggestion that I put forward before, the minor EMP inside somebody's brain with level 4 physics magic. Like, that, like, from a physics perspective, from a systems perspective, seems like it should be a one-shot, but that's gonna suck. Like, anytime you go up against a force mage, it's just gonna suck. It's just not gonna be fun.
I mean, a high-level mage, period, of any kind, is gonna suck. It is.
Yes. Physics mages more than others.
I can think of a lot of creative ways to kill you with a life mage, or a matter mage, or a thought mage.
Creative, sure. Not as effective, though.
Oh, pretty
The
effective.
the physics mage can wipe a party in the blink of an eye.
Does your enemy have a mage, you're going to have a bad time. Pretty much. But the same thing applies to D&D.
Yeah, and that's why we're allowing for things like anti-mages to exist. Because a character that I really want to make is a character that uses either melee weapons or, close range projectile weapons, but is nigh on magical immune. And he's just an anti-mage. That's just all he does. He just kills mages.
Yeah.
And I think this system is perfect for it, especially with how powerful mages are.
And the cost benefit to that would be that he is immune to magic, is the cost. Because when he's injured with that limited health pool, nothing can heal him but time. So all of a sudden it becomes a very quick And just because the mage can't affect you doesn't mean it's going to be easy to get to them. Because a force mage could also just be Magneto if you wanted to. Magneto is like a really limited force mage. Yeah. In our system, Magneto is a bitch. He's just an uncreative mage. That's it. He hasn't figured out that he can do more than just magnetism. Pansy. Wolverine could be a matter mage. Matter in life. That would explain him.
Definitely life. Maybe matter. Because he is initially the bone claws, right? So
I'm thinking just final form version of it, not considering origin and path and everything, because Magneto is a bitch who doesn't even know the limit of his own powers all of a sudden. So, we can say that Wolverine, to create a Wolverine character, matter and life mage would do it. You could make the metal come out of your arms, you could create the rapid healing effects, you could do all that.
You'd want level 3 in both.
Yeah. I really want to make a melee force mage. That's probably the character I'm going to make. A Gish.
I like it. That would be really fun with the system.
With mini crossbows! Oh, I could just have like the tiniest little crossbow. All it needs to do is get the object moving. Just get the initial projection going so it has a little bit of force behind it. That's all it needs to do.
And then just update and set it to the speed of sound.
Yep, pretty much. And just like with subsonic projectiles out of this little tiny twang crossbow mounted on my palm. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do with it. Fuck yeah. I love this system. There's so much you can do with it. It's gonna be so fun. All right, I think we never figured out hit points, but I think we're good on this. I took a dab and got carried away. Combat. Let's go stats. Go stats? Just stats. 200.
Stats is in the stats doc.
Yeah. HP. Questions. Set total or increasing total. And again, I like the set total because then you give the damage to the weapon and it makes it a very consistent feel. Like a deadly weapon is always a deadly weapon. The person may not be very good with it or not. They might have a bad chance at hitting you. They probably won't hit you in a vital spot. But
because of how our Delta system works, that is effectively making them good at hitting you with it.
No, if they hit you with it, it does a lot of damage.
Yeah, but we're using the same system. Like the same number. Your Delta is what determines your damage and how well you hit.
The Delta will affect the damage, I'll agree. But it's not going to be a complete determination. I think the core determination of damage is what weapon it is. And even D&D follows that one, where the damage die comes from the weapon.
Yeah. I'm not understanding how you're saying it's that way in our system. Can you explain further?
Yeah, well, we haven't gotten as far as figuring out how to judge damage yet, which is why we want to figure out some basics about our HP so then we can go on to damage.
So you're not saying that this is how it is in our system, you're saying that this is a goal that we have. Gotcha.
Yeah. There's nothing in our system yet, correct. I'm just throwing around ideas and trying to get an idea where when I say it, we all go, oh yeah! That's how I know we hit the right spot. Nothing, that hasn't happened yet, so we're not there yet.
Yeah. No, I agree that damage should be tied to weapons. I think we'll need to think about it long and hard to get it working right without breaking the Delta mechanic. Because
Okay.
then if you just get a good weapon that makes you better at hitting them for some reason.
No. Well, okay. You do the delta roll. Okay. You win the delta means you hit. The delta value is then added to the weapon damage. So a really high skill, even with a crappy weapon, can do a lot of damage. Which makes sense.
The weapon has a fixed amount of damage, and you deal that amount of damage with your delta added to it.
Yeah.
I like that. It's elegant.
Yeah, because I've absolutely seen a person perform a lethal maneuver with a chopstick.
With a pencil. A fucking pencil.
Johnny, I love that.
But yeah, I like with my own person, I have witnessed an act where I am convinced that this man has killed a person from across a room with a chopstick in his life. And knowing his life history, he has been in situations to do that. So, this has happened in the world. People have been killed with a chopstick. You've been stabbed by a pencil, they are no joke. Yeah,
It's a really rough hole. It hurts.
I had the absolute honor when I was younger of getting to train under a grandmaster who was from the Korean Special Forces originally. He actually used to train the Korean Special Forces, Black Ops in self-defense. He knew his stuff. You don't want to fuck with that guy. Don't fuck with that guy. Don't fuck with him.
Bad idea.
But he was just like, he described life over there as basically being a Vulcan. No laughing, no smiling. You had to be straight-faced all the time, and he said he hated it. So as soon as he got out of the military, he moved to Canada. And every time you saw him, he was walking around with his hands behind his back and a big smile on his face, and just like, I love life. This is wonderful. And just the happiest guy all the time. But then, like in the middle of class, from across the dojo, while turned, he would just like take a chopstick and look as he's throwing it and throw it across the dojo maybe 30 feet, 40 feet, and then peg the crane that's standing on top of the target in the eye. There's like a dugout hole where the eye of the crane used to be from his accuracy, and there's no marks around it. Like there's no missed shots. I've never seen anything like this guy. He's superhuman. He set the standard for what the human can achieve for me. And I always consider him when I make these games, because if I can't make him, then the game's not good enough. I don't know where I was going with that, but that was a fun story. I haven't written anything down. Where are we? Set total?
We're working on set total versus increasing total. So I'm not entirely opposed to a set total. We just need to be careful with how we do damage calculations and how we assign damage. I think 10 is too small of a number for our system.
I agree. I was thinking 20.
Maybe even 30, because like I mentioned earlier, our largest possible delta is 30.
So pros and cons. Let's do pros and cons. Pros plus cons. $20 life versus 30 life. Where's my table? Table. Just give me a big one. There we go. Pro. Done. 20 life. Or we'll just say smaller number. Easier to calculate / track.
Harder to balance.
Harder to balance. That was exactly what I was going to write. Yeah. So why is it harder to balance? For people that are thinking, well, why would it be so much harder to have a balance with less damage? Think of getting punched by a fist versus hitting by a chainsaw. Does the chainsaw do 20 times more damage than a punch? Because that's the most that you can calculate with 1 to 20 life. Unless the chainsaw is just doing more than the health pool of damage, which it probably would.
Unless you've got an RE7 game going on.
Well, no,
then you have chainsaw duels, then it's awesome.
They weren't human, though. They were fungus, so they just had massive health pools. That's why the shotguns weren't doing anything to them either. You could still do that in the system. They just had like 300 life with a 20 life max because of the fungus, or maybe they had like 100 life, but healing like 50 or 60 every turn.
What a game! What a game!
Yeah.
So another pro for a smaller number, specifically with 20, is it's easier to divide. Like you get nice 4s, you get nice 2s, you get nice 5s, you get pretty nice 8s, you get pretty nice 6s.
Yep. 5 damage to 6 damage is a nice change. 6 damage to 7 damage is still an okay change. 6, 12, 18. Yeah. It's 3 to 4 hits. I do like that balance really well.
Easier to get one shot because our max delta is 30.
But I'm kind of okay with that. I don't think it's a major con because in order to get that big of a delta difference, it's a super high luck and a super shit luck all at the same time, or just a guy that's really, really, really good and he's just overpowering you.
Yeah, well,
my mistake. Max delta is actually 25, not 30.
You forgot to subtract the ones?
Yeah, no, because both of them are... Because your max roll is 35. Minus the 5 from your skills, minus 6. So it's actually 24. Your max delta is 24, which is still more than a 20 health pool. But still a lot.
Not easier, it's just possible to get one shot, whereas the larger number we're talking about would be impossible unless they're using a serious weapon. At which point, if you got shot in the face by the 50 cal, that's your fault. Don't do that.
You're not going to recover from that one.
Unless the fungus is among us, you're kinda dead. So I'll go put it back to easier. The more we talk about the delta being 24, I think playing with the... I guess, so... Keeping the value stable is... Oh, I guess we're already talking about stable value. Just what is the stable value? Yeah, never mind. Good thought, brain, but it was irrelevant right now. Thank you, though.
So, okay, Pseudo, I need you to double check my math.
Sure.
66 plus 5.
It's 71.
It's 4. No, it isn't.
66 plus 5?
No, 6d6.
Oh, I thought you said 66.
Plus 5 is 41. So then you take away the 6 from the 1s on the opposing roll. You take away the 5 from the buff on the opposing roll. That puts us at 30 and I'm just a dumbass, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it isn't 24, it is 30. Both of them would be possible to one-shot, even with your fists. But it is significantly harder at 30 than it is at 20.
So yeah, I think I want to just keep... Do we want to just have a health pool, or do we want to have a stun and health pool? I think the stun and health pool is a little too complicated, despite loving the mechanics that it brings in.
I completely agree. I love the idea of having a stun pool. Like, you've seen me build characters around having a stun pool. But I think for this system, it's too complicated.
We could use the negative health system to represent a stun pool.
How so?
Just have, let's say we use 20 life total, and you need negative 10 to kill. You essentially have a 10-point stun pool.
So that would leave you still able to be one-shot, make it incredibly difficult, but still allow you to be taken out of the fight without your character dying.
Yep.
But if somebody has a 10 damage weapon, which may exist,
Oh yeah.
then you've got a 25% chance you're 25% more likely to be one shot.
Yeah. And the way I see melee happening is melee will probably have the damage influenced by your strength. So a really strong person with a melee weapon could quickly hit overflow damage values, which I agree with. Battle axes cause damage. Oh god. Don't get hit without armor, because the armor's going to have some absorption and stuff like that too.
Yeah, armor will have absorption. It'll help with your delta calculation. Oh, there's an interesting thing to think. So what if there's a tight delta? So what if you get deltaed by like 1, but then it's a 10 damage weapon?
You still got hit.
You still take 11.
Yep. I mean, it didn't hit you in a super vital spot, but, a 50 cal that doesn't hit you in a super vital spot is still going to take an arm off. If it's a big damage weapon, it's a big damage, What if we're not talking about a 50 cal? What if we're talking about a flanged mace? Okay, well, the flanged mace didn't hit you in the head or the heart, in a critical spot, but it still caught you in the thigh. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna be a big hit. It's gonna probably break your leg.
Do we want to have armor work on the delta or the weapon's damage value?
The armor should work against the total damage coming at you. So let's say like a really good armor has an absorption of 8. So every hit that comes at you is just reduced by 8.
Which is similar but not functionally identical to having it reduce the weapon's damage by 8.
Yep.
So if we reduce the weapon's damage by 8, the delta damage could still go through. And if your skill is extremely high, you find a chink in the armor or whatever. But the weapon itself is dealing 0 of that damage. Versus overpowering it with a very strong weapon, the weapon just deals less damage, and your delta is still applied. I like the idea of applying it to a weapon.
No, because then you can kill somebody in super amazing armor, like chinkless, like a combat battle suit kind of idea with a fucking toothpick just because you're skilled enough.
It'd take a fucking long time, but this is the same as
Not
throwing a chopstick across the room and killing somebody with it. Like,
Not if most of the well, yeah, but throwing the chopstick across the room and killing them is great if they're not wearing a helmet. But if they've got a visor on, it's just gonna bounce off. It doesn't matter how much fucking skill you've got.
well, unless you don't, like, unless you then aim for the throat instead. Like, if you're encased in a suit of armor and it doesn't have any weak points, you can't move. Like, at all. It needs to be solid.
Be it in a metal ball.
I mean, just having a high enough delta. Like when we're talking like potential deltas in the 20s, I was talking like a good armor is like, absorption 8, 9. So regardless, you're going to be getting damage through if you're getting that good of a delta. Otherwise, armor is basically only for fighting plebs.
Well, I mean, as it should be, in my opinion.
Well, no, the military still wears armor when they go into combat for a reason. Even though they're fighting talented people. It's still valuable.
It'll stop lower power rounds. It'll stop stabs if it hits those plates. But like, military forces don't wear full armor suits. They wear a plate carrier over their chest, over their vitals, because otherwise you can't move.
Depends what they're going into too.
Unless you're bomb squad, you're wearing a plate carrier.
They still do make full body armors, which are wonderful. Yeah, it fucks up your movement,
nuts.
but you can take some shit with that on.
Just become a suit of armor that might cost an armor a leg. So is that a Full Metal Alchemist joke board?
I was just thinking, like, if you're skilled enough mage, you just pretend to be a knight, and then eventually someone, like, pushes it over, and it turns out it was just being, physically moved somewhere else the whole time, and there was nothing inside. And that's why they were so strong. I love that idea.
Remote control armor.
Yeah, you just had some knight fighting your battles for you. You're just sitting behind a bush the whole time, like a puppet master. There's just nothing inside there.
You
could hit as hard as they want.
What's his name? Mirage was that his name in Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance?
Yes.
You could totally do that with armor. Just control it.
Monsoon.
Monsoon. There we go. Thank you. Yes.
Names are hard.
That's amazing, Pseudo. I love that idea. Where do you land on this one? We need to get your brain churning a little bit. We need some input. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I've been thinking. I like smaller numbers that you can scale up a bit, but we also wanted it to be easier at math, so we don't want like massive numbers.
Yep.
The only other alternative I see is that, the same effective thing of having a set number that doesn't change is just doing percentage-based damage, and then you just reduce, percentages based off, modifiers, but that's even more math. Like, it's complicated.
Yeah. What about the only armor absorption idea? Let's start simple. Armor just having an HP value that it reduces the damage by.
The other thing I know it gets hard to scale because, like, I don't know how frequent armor will be between the different people. We don't get to a thing where everyone's just in plate, because then they just can't die no matter what, without any sort of like consequence to that. The other thing I was thinking is that, like, it could be that, like, damage getting through goes through kind of like a resolution phase where, like, it's going to hit, but then there's like, it's kind of more of a flat value of damage it's going to come through, and then the reductions happen after. So most of the time when damage comes through, it's only going to be like 1 to 2 when you get hit. So say it's like a good hit, it's going to be, there's 3 damaging coming, they did well, and it's like, okay, well, now we're going to reduce that 3 to hopefully to a 1. and that's the resolution that happens. That's the only way I could really see having it a flat number work and still somehow getting a increase in power working, because then what would happen is that number of damage incoming gets larger, but your ability to negate it also gets larger, so then you're only still taking 1 or 2 damage when you get hit, but you're seeing that it's a massive number coming in and you avoid it. But we'd have to make sure that, you know, they're always able to reduce that number, because the other way is, you know, you have a higher number, there's more damage coming in, but you can take, you know, the larger hits. I just want to make sure that, like, the player experiences that, you know, even though they still have the same number of health and they get stronger, they feel like they actually got stronger, and they don't feel like, okay, well, I was fighting things before that, you know, could deal 3 damage in a hit, and now I'm fighting things that can deal 8 damage in a hit, but I can also do more damage, you know, but I'm also, you know, stronger. Is it really just going to be able to, like, kill me, or am I actually, like, strong enough to fight these things and not be worried that they'll just kind of, like, land a shot and I'll just explode?
To paraphrase the concern, just to make sure I'm on the same page here, you want to make sure that as damage values increase with power levels, that absorption values can also increase, so that scaling doesn't get all out of wonk, and we can continue to have nice, smooth back and forth battles, rather than all of a sudden everything one-shots everything.
Yeah, either, like I said, it's still kind of the same system of, you know, either you have more health and you just take more hits, or you have, you know, more absorption and you just resolve to lower number, you know, it scales it down to when you get hit. But the main thing is that those numbers get bigger to communicate stronger power. And so my only concern with keeping the health pool smaller is that it's harder to communicate that you're actually stronger, and that, you know, these things can't just one-shot you. When you have, like, 10 damage incoming and you have 10 health, but you negate that damage, unless we want that to be the communication of, like, you know, it's a dangerous world, and, you know, you, like, you're best of the best, so you're always trying to, you know, negate the damage that's coming in, which is fine. It's just that it's something that we'll have to, like, make sure to keep that in mind when playtesting, that that's the feel we're going for. And it's, you know, we're not, like, we don't have people, like, not going into conflicts because, you know, they're worried that this could be it, because there's always that chance of, you know, getting someone getting a lucky hit on you, and then your character is just out for a bit.
Yep. I agree. I don't want to just get randomly one shot. That's why I like the consistency of the raw number. We can also look at maybe having it be per round absorption rather than per hit absorption. Makes a little less sense. Might balance better. Not sure. Balance is always king.
Yeah, it is. I completely agree with that statement. I still lean towards per hit reduction.
I like that
simply
idea
because if you're going to be fighting a bunch of guys and one of them's high level, odds are most of them are pretty high level.
Yeah, you usually don't get disparate levels within sets. I feel like endurance should be included in the damage reduction calculation.
Or whatever we called that stat, yeah. Yeah, I think so.
We're in stats already. Fortitude. And it makes sense. So then, you know, as you're leveling, you get that extra point of damage reduction per hit when you put that stat up for your melee frontliners that are trying to build a little bit of tanky. If you have more consistent damage values coming in, which can be created with the, you know, consistent health pool, then you have that tangible decrease in hit. It's only if the deltas start getting out of whack and carried away that'll happen, and that will mostly happen when they're out leveling. That's where you start getting consistently high deltas, and then if they get one bad roll, then you're more likely to have a high roll with their bad roll. You're still limited in dice used, though, so it's not going to get too carried away. It would really have to be a high level versus a high level where the high level really fucks up his roll.
And I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I think a master versus a master, which is that high delta situation that I was talking about.
Yep.
I think that being extremely deadly is good. I think that is a good thing.
I do too. Sword fight, standoff, first person to make a mistake loses, because it's a master versus a master. I like this setting.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Because remember, we are limiting the delta to the defender's die pool. So
I don't want to call it the damage delta for the final damage done as the change after the reduction, because delta is used in such a loaded way already in the game.
total. It's the total. Your damage total is equal to
Final damage
delta
equals total damage minus armor absorption minus fortitude.
Yeah, and I think that allows enough flexibility to like really tank up if you want. You wear heavy armor, you level fortitude, and you get good at using your defend skill with whatever your primary stat is, and you can reduce damage by a lot.
And we'll get to balancing armor for the armor absorption when we design it as well. There will be limitations. Like, you know, really heavy metal armor, I'm sure, would give you a maximum precision. Limit your precision to a max value. It'll have a lower ceiling. Like, it doesn't matter how agile you are, you can't be. It doesn't matter how precise you are, you can't be that precise wearing this much armor. You can't. It doesn't work that way. It may even reduce your strength. I could easily see it reducing your strength wearing super heavy armor, because some of your strength has to go to just lifting and carrying and moving around the armor. You know,
yeah, if you're wearing like bomb squad armor, then yeah, your precision's going to be trash. Your strength is going to be mostly used up just moving around.
You're not going to cause nearly as much damage swinging that sword, because so much of your force and power is going into moving your heavy ass arms with all this fucking weight on them. But you're a tank. Welcome, Punk. How you doing? So that's we're not going to do those numbers yet, but in my mind, that's how I see the armor balancing. So like, yeah, you got to hit me a fucking lot just to hurt me, but you know, I'm like, it could limit move speed. You know, there's all sorts of things that it could do. It could do all of the above, and you're just a fucking tank.
Yeah, you can't go anywhere, but you're unstoppable.
Hurt me plenty indeed. Like it's like running PST and running into a Chad. It takes him forever to turn around. You can run circles around him, but it doesn't matter. You can empty all your clips into him and it just won't matter. It just doesn't do anything. Doesn't even feel it.
Unless you get him in the eye or the nape or the jaw, which is why I was saying, you know, weapon damage reduction. But
that would be your delta is so high from succeeding on your shot that you just go over his armor absorption and end up dealing damage anyway.
That's going straight down the pee hole.
And that's why you wear a cup. It still hurts, but it doesn't cause as much damage. So I say I'm going to propose we just play test 20.
20 with the minus 10 I'm okay with. Raw 20, no.
Okay. I'm good with that. Because the 20 does such nice math, and the added 10 makes it really hard to one-shot.
Yeah. The saving from the one-shot with the minus 10. Oh, what might be interesting is when you fall unconscious, damage stops. So you effectively cap damage at 20. And you're unconscious out of the fight, and you need to do something to be stabilized, otherwise you fucking die.
Yeah.
But they would have to hit you again for 10 damage to kill you.
Yes. Pending other damage sources.
Yes.
You know, things that cause bleed or toxic clouds and stuff like that can still be factored in. Yeah. So getting shot by a weapon that causes bleed and you're laying there, then you just bleed out. But otherwise, you've just been struck and you're unconscious.
Yeah.
Or the famous Kenshi recovery coma that you don't recover from.
Yeah, those suck. Well, okay, so before anyone thinks that it's like a broken thing, it's an actual mechanic. It's just if you're the only person and you get knocked out outside, then you might heal from the initial injury, but when you go into the recovery coma to, like, recover the injury, because you're in the elements, your health keeps going down, and then you just, it's a... Kenshi is suffering. Kenshi is suffering.
Just love it. Watch so many people like, oh, recovery coma, and then they just die, and it's like, what? That's the opposite of recovering. It wasn't a recovery coma at all.
Yeah, that was my first Kenshi experience. Get attacked by hungry bandits while walking around outside, go into a recovery coma, get really happy that I'm going to recover, see Bone Dog come up and start eating unconscious and dead bodies around me and start getting worried. And then realize that even though I'm in a recovery coma, I'm actually still bleeding to death, and bleed to death before Doggo starts eating me.
I mean, that's probably the less worse outcome, if I'm honest.
That's why every time someone wants to play Kenshi, I tell them my first experience was the only reason I didn't get eaten alive by bone dogs was because I bled out before they got to me. I mean, that's not even a death that was meant to be, Punk. That is an average Kenshi situation. That's gonna happen to you in a playthrough.
That's just how Kenshi do.
That's in a safe region of Kenshi. You don't want to see the dangerous ones.
There's areas of the map that you're just like, I'm never going back there, no matter what. No matter how strong I get, I'm never. This part of the map just doesn't exist.
The first
like,
time,
how much worse can it get? And then you're like, wow, it did get worse.
Yeah,
it's like, Reddit can't be right. It's not that bad. And you get there and you're like, oh.
Reddit was right.
That is exactly Kenshi.
Why does this exist?
That is exactly Kenshi. It couldn't get worse than that, right? Yeah. Wait, yes, it can. The first time I ever encountered flesh spiders, Pseudo, I had 20 athletics.
Yeah, you get into when you get enough running, because you learn that that's the way to survive is just to run fast. Yeah, but then you get like lulled into a false sense of security. You're like, oh, I just outrun everything, and then it turns out no. Some things just go faster. It's like, and some things are just more of them and everywhere that you just can't. If you go in the wrong place at the wrong time, you're gonna get got.
Delete 6 rows. Okay, let's just delete this whole thing. We're done with it. I'm just gonna delete it. Set total of health to play test. Damage equals weapon damage plus delta. Final damage equals total damage minus armor absorption minus fortitude. We play with test with 20 minus 10 unconscious. Health pool. Base. And some people are just better at taking damage than others, which is pretty realistic. Some people can take a punch. If you've ever watched boxing, you've seen it.
Yeah, you get hit by one of those boxers, you're on your ass. I don't care how tough you think you are. If you aren't trained to take those hits, you're on your ass.
And just built for it. Honestly, boxers are the way they train, their bodies are built for it. To have that fortitude. You've got to have a certain level of genetics for it too. To be able to take those punches. And then came along Mike Tyson. I've never seen anybody take that punch yet.
It hits like a freight train.
Come on, freight trains don't hit that hard.
There's I'm sure you know who Francis Ngannou is. He's an MMA fighter.
Yeah, I know the guy.
They measured his punching power, and apparently it's equivalent to a Ford Focus going as fast as it can. He's got the record for the strongest punch, and he's scary.
Yep, that's
He's the
a scary
scariest
one.
person.
Butterbean was also a beast. This is accurate.
Yeah.
Butterbean was a monster. And the original Rocky Marciano, he could punch. Apparently he trained with a 300-pound punching bag. That was his secret. He was a littler guy.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he was a littler guy, and his mindset was, if I'm going to be fighting 200-pound guys, then I should get used to throwing around 300-pound things, and 200-pound things won't be so bad. And I believe he held a record for knockouts for a long time, so it seems to have worked. I don't know why more people don't do that, honestly. Why don't you train against
break your wrists? You break your wrists and your arms really easily.
Train against weights above your opponent, and your opponent will seem less intimidating. Doesn't it make sense? It makes sense. Anyway, I think we've knocked that out.
I was really reluctant with 20 until we added the -10 and potentially the damage cap at 20.
Well, yeah, well, we can definitely I definitely want it to be able to overflow. Like, you know, there's just extreme situations where something should just die. Like, even D&D recognized it with their increasing health pool. If you take 50 damage, you still have to roll forward or just fucking die. There are extreme damage situations. I'll hit myself with a hammer so punches won't feel so bad. Pretty much. It works. They take Tyson's punches, they just always end up on their back afterwards. Pretty much. In
the Shadow Realm.
Yep. Yeah, Mythbusters did something with that too, testing a human ninja's punch force into the solar plex and actually like putting the force plate inside where the heart would be as he punches, and it would kill you. It was enough to stop the heart with one punch. That's scary too. Yep, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. That's right. It was effective then as it is now. Yeah. Okay. We were working on magic originally? How did we get to there?
You were on magic, and then we trying to figure out damage because, you know, magic's going to be strong.
Yeah.
Do damages.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Figure out health pulls. So.
Yeah. So with that, I wanted to be able to, now that we've got that set health pool, I wanted to be able to simplify healing with just being able to resolve the type of magic it is. They can just fucking heal it. I guess the delta would be the total damage healed then on their roll. The value. To get a value, you just use the delta of the heal.
Yeah. I get that part, but like, if you can identify the kind of magic that was used, you would be able to heal it?
No,
Explain.
just healing the body. Life magic. If you have life magic.
Oh, so if you're healing somebody else,
Somebody's body, yeah.
then as long as you can determine the amount and extent of the damage, you can just heal it by using probably update life.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be an update roll, so you'd have to have minimum delta 3 to affect the heal change. But once you get there, as long as you make the delta, you'll restore the health. Is it just a full heal at that point if you make the delta, or are we using the delta value for the hit points healed?
I think delta value makes sense for hit points healed.
I agree, actually, and then they don't have to stop doing it. They can just keep rolling it every turn, and that represents channeling it and work done, and gives higher values and better rolls for better mages, meaning they can heal more, heal faster. Get a natural progression of power that way. Okay. So yeah, resolve is your healers, just like that. And then they're going to be hard to knock out. And once you do get powerful in life, you can't just keep things alive. You can easily snuff things out.
Well, if you can delta 5, you can do it in a turn.
Yep. Well, I think it would be more you have to delta 5 to do it in a turn. Or you have to Delta 5 to do it.
So you have to Delta 5 to do it. Then how would we set the work for that? It would be opposed roll with resolve on the defensive side to set the amount of work. And then you would need to match that amount of work by deltaing potentially multiple times.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we don't think of it as a delta target. Maybe we think of it as a work target. And in order for the same work target logic can apply to melee, but because melee is updated every round, if you don't get enough work done to meet your work target to accomplish the goal, then it just doesn't happen. And then they've moved. You can still finish it, but you've done it too slowly. It's a slight logic change. It plays out exactly the same in application. It does nothing changes application-wise.
Work.
Yeah,
it's just a really weird explanation.
yeah. But then that allows it to work with prolonged tasks because you have a work target that can be applied to across multiple rounds. And you can have an abstract work value for a percentage of completion if you want to. Should you decide to stop and come back to it?
So, you're trying to chop off an enemy's arm.
Are they immobilized?
No, they are not.
Okay.
You state your intent and roll.
Mm-hmm.
They counter roll. You win the delta by 5. How do we determine the work required?
I think Delta 5 is just a success, isn't it? As long as you had 5 skill. Well, let's take a look at combat systems.
I said 5 specifically because then it, you
may
obviously
call attacks
have
to
5
specific parts of the body. So, you do hit the arm. It doesn't give you the ability to call hacking off the part. It just gives you the ability to call the attack on the part. But you do deal all of the damage to that part. So I, as the GM, am going to look at the damage of your weapon and the damage delta added to it, and then decide if that's a high enough value that I think that arm came off.
But how do we determine how that value should be determined?
Then we need to have limb
the other character.
Then we need to have limb health.
Not necessarily. It could be determined by type of armor they're wearing.
Well, that's going to be the type of armor will determine the amount of
reduction.
The type of armor and the damage reduction will determine the final damage done, so all of that is automatically factored in without any special consideration if we base it off of the final damage done.
Do we then say it takes 1/4 of total health pool to remove a limb?
That is exactly what I was thinking, because we do have 4 limbs. But then you're basically having a limb health pool, basically. You're saying limbs have 5 health.
Functionally, yes, but you don't need to track it.
You don't need
is the
to.
Key part.
Everything is optional, but then we could say optional system, 5 health per limb.
But then how do we determine how much damage, hitting them in specifically the heart would deal? Does that deal critical damage?
I would say that's a critical hit. A critical hit is a hit to a vulnerable spot. That is what a crit hit represents. So, if you can Delta 5, you can do a called crit. Because you only hit that spot if you Delta 5.
Delta 5 with 5 mastery in that skill.
So losing 1/4 of your health is just a flesh wound? Well, it depends. If you lose 1/4 of your health to your chest, all of your limbs could be at 5 still, even though your hit points are at 15. But if you took that 5 to the arm, then you could have a flesh wound. of that limb, and you have 15 health left. It doesn't. It's not that you have more health. It's just we have a tracking to track that damage to the limb at that point. That's how I see it, Scornful. As an optional system. It just kind of tacks on, and this way everything makes sense if you just ignore the limb health and remove it and play the game.
If you're wanting to include limb health, 30 works better.
Because
you can represent head health will be an instant kill, vital health, aka your torso, which will be an instant kill, or limb health, which is not an instant kill, but is a timer.
I know what you were trying to make a reference to, and that's why I used the same flesh wound.
We got it. We're just also discussing health systems because health systems are neat.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I like the idea of a health, like a limb health pool thing. Like, I fucking love Tarkov's health system. I think it's amazing.
But Tarkov's is far too much to calculate in pen and paper.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
30 works better because then you could have head, which if you lose all, if we end up doing 5 zones, all 6 health. If we end up doing 6 zones, all 5 health. Your head's gone. You're dead.
I mean that
it also makes also makes calling attacks way more valuable.
It makes calling attacks more valuable. We can still ignore head and heart and just call those called crits, where you're gonna get your crit value added to it, and that's gonna be a big hit. It might not kill them, but it will almost knock them out almost all the time. So there's definitely value there, and if they don't have armor there and you hit them there, then it's no absorbed damage and a crit that will probably kill somebody with a stable health pool from a weapon. But
the math doesn't work as nicely with 20, which is what I'm trying to say. Like leg, arm, head, torso. Like even if we include head, torso in the same.
Why not just
like
5, 5, 5, 5, and 20 health? Why doesn't that work?
Because now we've got 5 pools to track. It would have to be 4, 4, 4, 4, and 4 is really not a lot in our system because we're using small numbers. 4 is a very easy damage amount to get.
I mean, either way, you're tracking 5 pools.
Yeah, and more health is more better.
So why are you trying to go down to 4? Why not 5, 5, 5, 5 with 20 health?
Because that doesn't add up to 20. It would be 5, 5, 5, 5, 5.
Why?
Because now you have headshots.
But a headshot is just a crit.
Even if
it's just a called
headshot. Crit. Sure. So we're including head and torso in the same spot, yeah? That's your crit area.
You have 20 health for your life, and each limb has 5. If you take damage to the limb, it still comes off of your main health pool. If you take damage to the body, it comes off of your main health pool, not off of a limb.
Yes, and now you have no way to track your crit area, your head, your vitals.
It takes double damage off of that 20 pool. It's just a crit hit to the pool.
I see what you're saying. I don't like it.
It's simple to track, and it still accounts for everything you want.
And it's super unintuitive.
I find it less unintuitive than what you're saying, though.
Just have a health pool for every section.
But
arm
then you
has
have
a health pool,
so
other
many...
arm has a health pool, chest has a health pool, head has a health pool, leg has a health pool, other leg has a health pool. Go to 25 total health.
So what happens if I hit you in the arm that's already taken all the damage?
It's not on anymore. It's gone. You can't.
You're going to be losing body parts like every fight.
We're making Kenshi the pen and paper version.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going to lose like a limb every single combat at that rate.
Only if they can call attacks and only if they Delta 5.
Then it seems like a lot to add for such a fringe system.
Then let's not use limb health.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be a bit too complicated for a pen and paper system to track all of that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, yeah. We were talking about
We want to
health,
implement
which
something like
isn't
that later.
just
We might be able to
stats.
do like armor quality on top of things, and like if your armor gets smacked a lot, it can degrade and fall off.
Start
implement
making
something like that
Tarkov
later.
pen and paper, basically. That would be
And
a
it might
lot.
be a little bit more, a little bit easier to do because it does not entirely cover the body. You would just have armor on vitals, like we said with plate carriers. You have a chest vital. So if you're finding we want to reduce the crits, then most people just have an armor thing on their chest, which is a separate little health pool that can take damage. And if it breaks and falls off, they know that they're vulnerable to taking some serious damage.
Yeah, the called crits all of a sudden are exposed in the high level play.
How would we represent? I really like that idea. How would we represent it?
I'd say it'd probably just be like equipable item, and then you would just have to have a pool for it, and just be a limit on how much that stuff you could have, so the player doesn't have a lot to track. But it might just be designed around only like lore wise, because everyone's so strong to be able to survive at all. They just got used to having resistant armor, whether it's resistant to physical things like arrows and swords, or resistant to magical properties, and they just only wear it on like heads and chest vitals, so they don't get exploded. And that can kind of be like you can take a huge hit, but it doesn't penetrate through and kill you. It just destroys your armor, and then the next time if you're going to take that hit again, you're going to get completely blasted. And then healing can just be someone who's, if it's magical, it could be someone who's repairing the matter of your armor to reform it and re-strengthen it. Or if it's magical, it could just be someone who's using whatever force it is that's reducing magic. They can reinforce it and supply more energy to it, so that force is restored.
That is an awesome use of matter magic.
I was about to say, I
love it.
love the idea of using matter magic like a healing mage for items. However, that encourages a durability system, and that leaves a bad taste in the mouth.
Well, it doesn't need to be durability. I mean,
I know,
it's just
I realize, but it leads
health.
it leads so heavily towards a durability system, and we have to be careful about that.
I mean, it's just a health pool.
Yeah.
I mean, it can just.
I mean, that's exactly what a
it's
durability system is. It's a health pool for items.
Kind of, sort of, not really.
Yeah, not really. Like that means like every game has durability, which is fine. It's not like something like Breath of the Wild where you can't repair it. Durability is annoying when the repair functions aren't there to sustain it. But I mean, like every game has health, and every game has the ability to restore health. So your body has durability in that sense. But I mean, It's just something on there. The person who has it themselves could repair it, or they could repair it. They could have someone who wants to do it for them, or they could have repair kits. Like there's still a way around that. But I think it's a nice way of doing healing rather than just having like, oh, like my arm cut off and someone's like, all right, well, I'll just grow you a new arm, or like I got a huge gash and I just like, because that seems very strong. But having something where it's like they're restoring the matter, or they have, that means that like if someone wants to be supported healing properties, they don't just have to go into life magic. They'll be able to do that, but through these other means, they can help their tank.
Yeah.
Or they can help
Life
their
matter
magicians.
could be super helpful that way, for sure.
Yeah, so they can go like life matter, but they could also specialize in, like I said, they could help restore like actual physical damage, but also like help just restore the armors and reinforcements and all that kind of stuff too, which might be a bit of an interesting way to do that. And then we can play that into the whole, we don't want to get one shot by, you just have this thing that takes the blow, but then just crumbles after it because it did what it was designed to do, but now it's no longer there. So, you need to like step back or like take a more defensive approach than standing in front of the big bad.
Yeah, if they have update matter, then it takes them, they have to like restore the durability of it. But if they have create matter, then they can Delta 5 to succeed the task and just create a new one on you. So let's generate armor on the fly.
Let's think a little bit of that. Would actually be sick. I just had an idea for a kick-ass character, but let's think about somebody who is non-magical and wearing armor. If we represent the durability of that armor with an HP pool, I say one way we could do it is to use you just use the armor's HP pool before it gets to your HP pool.
Mm-hmm. That's an option. I'm not 100% on it because I do like the idea of trying to, like, if it's a constantly replenished HP pool, then you need to have some ways to get through it.
Yeah, I was thinking that like not everyone would have the armor. Like it's going to have limitations, and it's mostly going to be, something that you need a skill to know how to move with it. And if you don't have it, don't know how to wear it properly, or it's going to, inhibit what you're doing. So it's not like I said. What I want to avoid is having the plate mage. While should be possible, it gets a bit silly because then everyone's just going to be like mobile tanks, unless we want to go for that way, and then we can start doing more mech stuff. But the point of the glass cannon is that without that protection, you're allowed to do a lot more damage.
So the armor will still give you significant reductions to stats. Like this doesn't stop it from capping, for instance, your strength or your precision.
I like the idea of it actually reducing strength.
Can I please finish? The situation that I wanted to bring up is a non-magical person who is wearing a plate carrier on their chest. They are hit with a baseball bat. And they end up getting, Delta 3'd or something. Like it's not a huge amount of damage. There's 3 incoming. It's a plate carrier. It's meant to stop bullets. The reduction value on the HP pool on that is probably going to be 5. So it would then take 3 damage from that HP. Realistically, there should be some blunt trauma damage to the character's chest, but because video games, or not because video games, just because games in general, that's fine. It takes 3 damage. It is now damaged and can only reduce the next attack by 2.
So it basically the block value of the armor goes down by 1 every time it's hit until it's repaired.
No, it takes that damage, and that way we don't have to track armor durability and damage reduction separately.
So it works like a health pool, and it at whatever damage gets applied to it comes off of it until it's repaired.
Until it's repaired, yeah. It's just a little bonus health that you can put on a specific body part.
Yeah, that's honestly how I originally was thinking of it too. It's just now it's a pool to manage where it doesn't come back. It's the only real change.
I think it might be a nice kind of compromise of middle ground between the flat health value and then having a number that can increase, because we can always have the health, as Dea said, stay the same, but now we can kind of have the ability for certain classes to add more to their their pool so they feel stronger. It may not be like their body is still a flesh bag that if they fall on some rocks are going to be bad, but if they have the ability to know what armor, what damage reduction to put on themselves too, and how to fall, and or they have a magical thing around them that reduces certain things, they are going to feel stronger. It's the same sense of if you're going to fight someone, if you're going to play sports, and if you're playing something with no pads, and then you go and play something with pads, it's you have a different sense of what's going to happen when someone runs into you or hits you with a stick. And even though you're not actually really that much physically stronger, you feel like you're a lot stronger because you can actually take those larger hits.
Yeah, and those pads don't wear down from those stick hits. They're built to take it every time, over and over and over again.
Depends on the sport. Yeah. I've had to replace a lot of pads. I've broke a few helmets in lacrosse
I broke other people's
those
helmets.
are intended to break. Those are intended to break. So then, do we want to have an additional stat to track for armor? Because in my mind, that's too many things.
Even I was already thinking just. I was already thinking just the damage calculation is starting to get a little bit much with these ideas on that phase, because now it's calculate total damage, reduce durability of armor, subtract that damage, then reduce the new total by your endurance, and then apply the remaining value to your health.
The calculation is literally exactly the same. The only difference is that your armor gets burnt up.
Yeah, but you have to remember to subtract the armor's health before you subtract your fortitude from the total to apply it to your health. And that starts to be a confusing step in my mind.
So alternatives for armor then.
Yeah, because I do like the idea of it. I think it's a nice touch. I think it's a great way to handle armor, especially with a static pool. It's just a little too much. Armordias.
And it also doesn't capture like steel armor very well, because the steel armor isn't going to get destroyed after being like hit with a stick, for instance.
That's why I saw it as the simplest way to do it is without the health is just have a health value pool that's added to that spot, and every time they swing there's an extra bit of health that it's got to chew through before it takes off your primary, which is a great basic way to do it. But it doesn't reflect the damage to the armor.
If it's a flat DR, then armor becomes a fixture like it does in D20.
Yeah.
If we want armor to be a fixture, that's fine. If we like the idea of our armor being consumable, which personally I do, I think that's really cool, then we need to track something that allows it to be destroyed.
So yes, Punk's suggesting it has the same HP pool absorption all the time, and then just a certain number of hits it can handle before it needs repair.
Before it's toast, yeah.
And so then the matter mages can restore that health pool.
That would be a durability system. I initially shied away from that because if you've got a helmet, a shoulder pad, a chest pad, some thigh pads, having to track all of those individually is kind of a pain in the butt.
I think if we just simplify it to it's just like sets. You have like a set of armor and they're interconnected, and that's just how it is. Otherwise, if you're mad maxing it, you just can't really move. But what I'm thinking might work is having the DR, like in D&D, where you have that number to meet that determines, whether you're going to take that damage or not. But depending on, that number or that threshold, if it was close to that DR number, it's just hitting your armor and hurting it. But if you don't repair your armor and it, becomes useless, or say it's plate, even though you're not taking big hits, it's getting dented, it's getting warped, you're not going to be able to move as frequently in it, it's going to become useless. If it's not repaired or fixed, you're going to have to take it off basically, and then your DR comes down until it's repaired. So you're susceptible to those big hits, and then those big hits, can go right into your health pool.
I think I followed. So you have an armor set. That armor set has a fixed damage reduction value.
Yep.
As that armor set gets hit, it becomes less effective. How would we track the less effectiveness?
No, it stays as effective, but there's a certain point where it becomes useless and has to be taken off.
Gotcha.
So steel will keep blocking it, but eventually it gets to the point where it's been warped and bent that you can't move in it as well. So you have to take it off.
I would mechanically implement it as it just stops reducing the health and keeps applying the negative benefits of the armor.
Yeah. And
And it's
So there would just
simple,
be
yeah.
a fixed number of hits that your set of armor could take before it becomes useless.
I would like to make one fine change to that system. The armor durability, let's just call it durability because it is what it is. The armor durability would only get reduced when your health takes damage.
Yeah. I think that makes sense because it's a
So
strong enough.
only if it's a strong enough hit to penetrate the armor does the armor take damage.
Yes.
And I think that makes
That is
kind of adds
not-
in that thing. Sorry, I'll let you.
It's not realistically how it works, but I think it may work from a mechanical perspective.
Yeah.
I was going to say it may kind of show like that, you're wearing steel, but you get hit by a tree kind of thing where it's like that blunt force bleeds through, your steel. It dissipates and spreads out the surface, but it's still a lot of force. And maybe you didn't die from it, but you're going to be winded and then your armor is going to be,
Fucked up.
pretty messed up from it too.
Yeah. And it also helps those situations where you're wearing really high-end armor and some guy comes at you with a bat and starts hitting the armor and you're like, whatever, buddy. Like bear armor. Have you seen bear suits?
Yeah, I've seen bear suits.
You can come at a guy with a bat.
Plate carrier with a BB gun, like Punk says.
Yeah.
But at the same time, shooting a plate carrier with a 22, which is a mid-caliber round. No, it's small caliber by firearm, but mid-caliber compared to pellets. That will degrade the plate carrier, which is the kind of interesting dichotomy of it doesn't necessarily get through the armor, but it can damage it.
It will probably still leave bruises and welts on the person when it hits them, and that could be considered person damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a way so that we can have tanky people still be a thing with some sort of penalty, but then still have the glass cannon mages, and then not have to worry about having a super complex armor system with a lot of things that's just going to be built into lore that, this area or whatever they use is just going to have armor sets, and they can be something just explained as, a chainmail shirt, but, you're going to be reducing damage because I don't think our system, it's going to get way too complicated if we want to handle aiming for the left toe that's exposed kind of idea rather than just attacking and then letting the DM resolve depending on what their armor set is to make it fit in the context of it.
I think for the most part, mages don't even need armor.
I'm mostly thinking for they're not going to be wearing plate, but they're going to be wearing kind of magical sets that they've built themselves to prevent other mages from, fireballing them. So then it makes sense that a mage and another mage can still have a mage battle during a fight, but they're not just going to one-shot each other from being strong. They're going to have some sort of, more like a shield, like a magical shield in the sense of most MMOs or RPGs, you get that bubble shield that goes around you or some sort of force shield that reduces incoming forces at you. Or let's say if it's fire, it's not going to directly hit your skin, but there's going to be a little bit of a force field around it that's going to dissipate it. But, it takes a lot of energy and effort to keep that up. And that'll get reduced down. And then once that's gone, if you hit a raw fireball to the chest, you're going to, have a bad time.
Well, I think anytime you have a raw fireball to the chest, you're going to have a bad time, yeah. I agree. And there's always going to be a chance for the, a mage does something another mage isn't expecting, and oh shit, and then he's a blood smear.
Looks up and there's a piano.
Looks up, Looney Tunes mage.
Looks up, sees the piano, and then the drawing on the wall has a train come out of it and run him over. Right as he's looking at the piano. An unseen train. Just, yeah.
This is a level 4 matter and force mage, both level 4, who is just memeing.
Yeah, the stuff that we're talking about, all this silly, janky, insane, outrageous stuff that we've talked about for builds is all possible under our current systems. And that is my favorite part about it. Lightning bolt the puddle he's standing in. Yep. That would be a physics mage. Create a whole lot of static electricity.
So I like the idea of allowing mages to also essentially be an artificer, where you can enhance weapons and armor with them. and they could like they just buy a suit, but they have to dedicate part of their casting pool, whatever we decide that's going to be, to maintaining the magical properties on those items, so that they can, deflect electricity, or they're hard as diamonds, and you need to be able to find chinks in it to actually deal damage.
So you want to come up with a channeling / enchanting system for the magic.
No, I don't know if it needs to be that complicated, but I think we just copy the armor thing. We're going to reduce stats, and it's going to fit the same kind of way as, like, it reduces stats in the sense that they have to dedicate that much power or that much focus into maintaining their set system on. But if they didn't have it at all, then they would have their full of focus and their full ability to put into damage. So that's how that glass cannon build comes to come up. Like, you can be a stronger mage, but you need to, use some of your power to, have your armor work. But now you're more balanced, where you can take some hits and you can throw some hits, or you can just say, I'm here. If I get hit, I'm gone. But if I hit them, they're also gone. So it's just, let's do this kind of thing. So I'm thinking it might make sense. It's the same way as if we're doing for the physical people. They wear armor, it's reducing those stats that are relevant to them. Do the same way that magical armor works, where it's reduces the stats that are relevant to them as well.
Yeah, that's
and in that way you can have
exactly
a mage
what
killer.
I was thinking.
You can have that mage killer build where the melee focus person is wearing anti-mage armor, which doesn't really reduce their ability to reduce all that stuff too much, so they're super strong. If they run into someone who's also physical and hits them, they're going to blow up, but it allows them to actually stand a chance fighting the mages, and they have the ability to get up into them and actually, like, hurt them.
As long as the mage isn't creative.
That's the thing. Like, I think a creative mage is always going to be better than a mage with armor, basically.
But like, you also need to stop, like, if you are a creative mage, you also need to stop the opposing creative mage. So you need something to be able to reduce the effects, be it, your t-shirt projecting a force field around you that slows any incoming projectile to, reasonable speeds, or essentially having a fireproof bubble around you.
Okay, so the fireproof bubble around you could just be force, like physics mage. He can just do that.
Yeah, absolutely. He can just do that.
But you're talking about an armor system for them too. So how are we doing this
if
armor
you
system?
have it attached to the armor, you don't necessarily need to pay as much upkeep. It's like somebody else built the system and you need to use your magic to power it.
Okay.
But even if you couldn't necessarily have created that system, say you aren't a level 4 force mage, you're all in on illusion, you could pay one force to keep that system running without needing to create it yourself.
I want to parody the same thing with, like, just because anyone can wear armor doesn't mean they know how to move in the armor, right? The more proficient you are, the better you're going to be moving in it. And I want that same kind of thing with mage, where the more proficient you are with, a magical attunement, the better able you are to have those things active on your person without taking too much of your attention. And eventually we can become something that's just, second nature to you. Same with, like, a highly skilled, warrior is, they don't really even notice the armor on anymore, or they find like a set that really works for them and
so
is fitted to them.
Essentially, you just want to add a new item to the game, not any new systems or anything, just a new item that is like an anti-magic armor.
Yeah, just copy the physical armor, and then just same thing, just different properties and different targets. Just adapt it for mages so that it's consistent. We don't have it's very familiar. If someone was playing a swordsman before, wants to go to mage, they'll have a familiarity with the same sort of system.
So is it going to increase the DC of the spell cast against them?
It would do whatever the same stuff that is happening when someone smacks someone with a sword, but if someone, throws a fireball at you, it would be the same system.
Yeah, so if you had some anti-magic armor on, it would do this. You would use the same calculation as we're using for physical damage, where it's the damage total minus the armor's value minus your resolve.
So it would only count if they're dealing damage to you with a spell.
If the spell is directly affecting you, it would take effect, yes.
Would it affect creating a rock and dropping it on you?
Absolutely not, because the spell is not affecting you.
Okay, just going over fringe cases so that we make sure we account for all of it.
I'd
make
say
sure
that'd
we're on the
be
same page.
a physical resolution. Like if you dropped a rock on a person wearing plate armor, that would,
I agree.
that would help them.
Yep.
Yeah, this is like magical properties hitting magical properties.
Yep. I just want to make sure everything is explicit rather than implicit. That's all. Make sure I'm fully understanding.
Yeah.
And then, like, say, so we haven't really talked about it, but let's say you do make a fireball. So the fireball idea is, I guess that's physics mage still? Creating a whole lot of heat energy and projecting it?
Not a fireball. A heat wave would be physics mage. A fireball would be matter and physics.
So at that point, since it's matter, does that become a physical attack and the magic armor wouldn't reduce it?
Well, everything's matter then in our system, so.
Well, the dropping the rock on them didn't, and everybody agreed that no. So projecting a flaming rock forward.
Is that the point you're bringing up now, everything is matter in a universe. So like,
I'm just trying to make sure I understand what's what.
It's okay. Then
does it target your character?
That's the thing we're saying is if it's a target. If you picked up a rock and threw it at someone, I'm saying I guess maybe sure it does. We'll just keep it as a force field then. We'll make it super simple. It's a force field that elemental properties and stuff like that can get through. So if it's like certain states of matter get through it, but if you're throwing large pieces of physical matter, it can't stop it in that sense. It depends on how kind of how explicit we really need to get with it, because I don't know if we really need to ship out a physics textbook with the rule sets. I don't know if we need to, like, if we say if it's large physical things landing on you, sure, but if we're saying it's stuff like if someone's throwing a fire at you, or if we have lightning, or if we have energy transfer states, because that's what heat is at the end of the day. It's an energy. You're heating them up with energy. Maybe that's what the armor is reducing, is it's making it so that energy doesn't go right into your physical person, and then all of a sudden you burn up or you get shocked or all that stuff. But if it's a physical rock,
I'm just trying to make sure that it's a really clear division is all. And the only reason I brought up the projecting fireball forward is because I was actually confused about the separation of them. So that's all.
But we went around this a few times, and it's I guess the only thing to say is we just separate energy from mass and matter. So magic is, I guess, just manipulation of energy.
Then we do need a new thing for matter mages, or would they just be reduced by the way I see it is, does it target your person? Does the magic explicitly target your person? If yes, it reduces the effects of it.
It doesn't try to change your person directly, or target. Target might be a bad word. Change?
Target is a perfectly fine word. Anything that can be cast on you. Anything that is cast on you, it reduces.
What if it's like you're standing in like a pool of water and they shock it? Is that indirect?
I would say that is indirect, yes.
And
that's where the creativity comes in.
Okay, I guess it's trying to find the kind of cracks in the armor and the workarounds to it.
It's just always raining things down on people, basically. Just drop things on them always.
Unless they're standing under a roof.
Created under the roof.
And then it just goes donk and bounces off of them and doesn't do anything.
That depends how massive I make it.
I mean, if you drop a building on someone, you're dropping a building on them. It doesn't really matter what they've got.
Yeah.
We can keep putting up extreme examples, but I mean, we're not going to get a game out of it.
The whole point is to find those loopholes and use them, right? I'm trying to figure out how useful and how much where the magic armor idea is actually going to be used.
But like creating boulder on above someone is a pretty strong like end game thing.
Yep, it
And
is.
then, like, at that point,
level 4 matter.
Yeah, and at that point, like armor doesn't really matter. It's more of like, hey, there's a boulder above me. I'm gonna step over to the right.
Yeah, no armor, no matter what it is going to save you from that.
Can I propose we play 0.1 without the magic armor idea and just see if it's actually needed? Because it feels like a lot of confusion.
And I'm going to fucking obliterate you.
Yeah, that's the main thing is that, like, depending on what we do, there's just almost no point to having any sort of physical characters. You just only roll mages. They're going to be so strong. You're basically going to have, like, elves and hobbits.
Well, we haven't gone back to the magic that like we started with, but haven't fully gone over it yet, and that's what we have to come back to, is figuring out like the cost of the spell, which helps balance. The cost also helps slow down time, needing the deltas, so multiple turns rather than one turn is a balance add. And then we all like the idea of people who don't have magic either having or potentially having a natural immunity to the magic at some point of some level where it cannot directly influence them, just innately. And that's a potential where then they have to resort to the drop it on them, etc., etc. And we can balance the drop it on them by, if it's big enough, it takes long enough to make it. You know, if they don't have enough power and they don't make an amazing enough roll that they can make it in that turn, then the other guy might just get to move while you're doing it, and that's not good.
Like creating matter, the more I think about it, it's so like you just create a rock in someone's head so the brain just stops existing. Which is they're going to be so strong.
That would need life magic as well to affect the living matter.
I would rule that as no. I would rule that as no. It doesn't need life matter or life magic.
You're not touching the life matter. You just put a rock anywhere in there and it'll just kill them. Like it doesn't have to touch their life magic. There's enough space in between that any air that was there, you just change it into
add rock.
Yeah, so it's like there's stuff like that that's it's gonna like that's what I was trying to avoid, trying to get like magic kind of armor stuff, and that's nice about like Rage is saying you can't target it because there's an area that you just can't focus on or target. You just don't have an effectability in it, but you can try and find ways around it. But that stops people if we want to do like create this or direct matter that. It stops them from being able to just be like blink, okay, your head's just gone because I can delete matter and your head's made of matter. There's nothing you can do about it because like
I don't mind. Okay, I see what you're trying to get at.
Because mages are going to get like stupidly strong, stupidly fast, which is fine. But like, we have to make sure that the person who swings a sword can still at least have something to do and not feel like they're made a wrong choice.
Yeah. I kind of I like the idea of and see a fairly easy implementation of basically like an anti-magic field, basically, where instead of worrying about is it targeting the person, it could just be within a range of the person. Like
sure,
the ability
but then why wouldn't you just cast that on your coat?
Well, I mean, that's what I mean.
Which is functionally the same thing.
That's what you're trying to get to, is the armor idea. I'm trying to get my mind towards that armor idea that you two were working towards, where the armor would basically just imagine it as a fuzzy field around the person that increases DC of spells. And because it's a fuzzy field around you, it would probably increase the DC of your spells as well. But it does provide a protection against magic.
That's basically what we were saying before.
Magic armor.
Yeah.
Okay. I just reasoned out the actual numbers in my mind in a way that I liked.
That made sense to
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just needed to get there. Hey, Mole, welcome. So do you like the idea of increasing the DC as a field around the person where it would also affect their DCs?
Yeah, because they have to get it out of there, but it slows things down from getting into there and all that stuff.
Exactly. It's like a magic fuzz field.
So how would that be implemented? What would that cost?
It would be
how would you do that?
An item that exists in the world that is just an armor you can buy and put on. It could easily be a thin shirt. It could be put onto anything. You could wear armor on top of it if you really want to. If you're wearing that item, all magic that happens to you and around you has an increased DC. It's harder to heal you. It's harder to save you. It's harder to target you. It's harder to attack you. And the big things being dropped on you will take time.
So let's take this from one extreme to the other. You've got a field that only affects your person. This is not as strong. It does not add as much magic work cost DR. And it doesn't have as large a field. Say you are extremely wealthy and you know a lot of really powerful mages. The field can be how large? How big can it go?
I was imagining it like, the standard being maybe a couple feet around the person.
So it's like effectively a square.
Yeah.
Like anything that's in that square.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So then what about typing? Would a better one be able to protect you against more kinds of magic?
I think magic is magic, and the fields of reality are the fields of reality, and it's more about how much it interferes, and that would be the choice of the mage and how high they want to go, and how much money you want to spend on it, where you could have anywhere from like a DR1 to a DR4 or 5 class. And like 4 or 5 would be the top. But you would be really hard to cast while you have it on.
For a more simple analog, let's work with a similar scale to melee armor, or physical armor, I should say. So we were talking earlier about something that is a -8. It has DR8 for physical. If something has DR8 for magic, any magic that is going in or out of that square will have it will have an additional 8 points added to the opposing roll.
It will have 8 it will have 8 additional points of work that it needs to do to finish.
I like that a lot better. A lot better. So if they had a spell that is normally, something that's like 3 points of work, they get it every time. This mage has been practicing it a lot. They're very good at that school of magic. They're up against somebody who has this level 8 armor, and now they need to achieve 11 points of work. They're probably dealing 4 to 6 points of work every turn because, they're really good at this school of magic. So that would take them probably 2 turns, maybe 3 turns to get that work done. And that would be considered an extremely powerful magic armor.
Yeah, I'm on board. That gives you that long to deal with it. You're aware that they're doing something. You have time to address the situation, basically. They're not completely hindered or cut off. They can still do it. They just got to wait.
I like it. I think we came to a good result there.
Yeah.
Armor reduces damage dealt per round or per hit by a set amount. Armor health reduced by 1 whenever player takes damage. This means damage overflow through armor. Magic armor
Ooh.
increases work total. Yeah, do you want us to roll there, or are people actually rolling? Let's figure out where we want to roll so that I can get my character made after this.
If possible, Mari would probably be ideal.
Is that where most people are?
That's where I have a guild in my 50s and stuff are, and it's a fairly popular. So if y'all can get in, that would be good.
Work total needed for spells in a 1 square area around the wearer. This means huddling up and hugging can save someone.
Hugging saves lives, yo.
Apparently we're going Mari now because it's open. Have you already been leveling on the one server, Scornful? Yeah, it's a bit of a shit show. Luckily, leveling is super fucking fast, so it's not a big deal. And your permanent buffs apply to the whole account. So it's not the worst. It's not the worst.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. It's up to everyone in the server. They can decide where they want to go. Mari's just where a lot of the pre-order people were, and where we have a guild and alts and all that stuff set up. So I should be able to help people get through dungeons and stuff. But if you just do the main story quest,
roster is server wide, not account wide.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, but if you just do the main storyline and don't do any of the side quests or anything like that, you should be able to.
It's fast, yeah.
Hit 50 in like 2 days.
Yeah, we got 30 last night.
30 in 8 hours.
Yeah. It's not too bad. It's not a true MMO grind for leveling or anything. The grind starts after the leveling, really, and then we're going to have full groups of people that we can just get groups crushing content to grind out gear.
Yeah,
we're going to be laughing.
Like you start at level 10 now. Like they've reduced a lot of the leveling over the years for the game before they moved it over here. Because before you had to hit level 10 and then you chose an advanced class, and now you just start at level 10 with an advanced class.
Okay. I'm actually super happy how armor came out. I went from not wanting magic armor at all to loving the new magic armor idea.
No, if we didn't have magic armor, there would be no reason to not play a mage.
I don't disagree. I mean, there's already no reason to not play a mage. They're so much fun. There's no reason to not play a melee either, because you can do a lot of cool things with them. I really want to try the melee systems. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to melee fight.
Yeah, I still really want to make that mage killer. I think he will be a really good test of these systems.
I love the idea of you being able to get this like super strong mage armor eventually that just doesn't really look like anything. And then this mage just casts like a super strong spell at you, and it just like fizzles in front of it, and they go,
oh shit.
You just keep walking at them like,
I want my mage armor cast on a worn out. I want my mage armor cast on a worn out 1980s Care Bears t-shirt.
I'm going with a leather duster.
Oh, that's solid. Luckily, you kind of hated your artillerist's face, so you guess another restart isn't the worst. Excellent. It's 6:30, by the way.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, I'm super hungry too, but great progress. So I guess we'll continue reviewing magic system next time, since we didn't really, other than turning sense and thought into a mind mage and force and energy into a physics mage and reduced it down to 4 levels.
I think we refined magic a lot just by doing all of the periphery around magic, because magic is in our system inherently creative. We don't want to add too many rules. So by adding constraints on the magic system, we refine it a lot.
I kind of want to talk about maybe an enchantment system too. That might be fun. I think it'll end up being a no, but I want to talk about it anyway.
I want to talk about it too. I want it to cost like casting capability to keep it up, and then like gives you a kick-ass weapon and or armor while it's up.
I just had the envisionment of a Ghostbusters fanny pack, as Punk said, and then whenever somebody casts a spell at me, it goes like, it opens up like one of the Ghostbusters trap and just sucks the spell into the fanny pack. See, you love it. I knew you would. Oh, this needs to be a thing. Anyway, I'm glad that everybody is liking these systems as much as we are. Everybody seems to be having fun with it. We're going to go eat food, we're going to come back, and we're going to play Lost Ark until the wee hours of the morning again, probably. And get to
Most
level
likely
30 again, or so. See how that goes. We can go real fast now, though. So, I mean, we were going pretty fucking fast anyway.
Yeah.
I'm
in queue for Mary. You should probably get in queue, Des.
Okay, I'm getting in queue right now. Lost Ark play. There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna roll warrior this time, and I'm gonna tank the spanky tank spank.
The Gunzerker's like, there's no like real, I guess, tank roll, but I think the Gunzerker, whatever it is the closest thing they have to a tank or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah, the gun.
Person with a large sword and a gun.
Yeah, the sword, gun, sword, and the shield.
Is damage pally a thing? Because that's what I want to be.
Paladin's just a support role, and it's the easier support role to play. Paladin's you choose warrior, and then there's the 3 advanced classes, and Paladin's one of those advanced classes.
Yep.
But like they do a fair bit of damage. They're just more balanced into like they do shields and all that stuff. I've been enjoying my Paladin, but seeing how there's like a dedicated like healing, I kind of wish I just went like damage, since end game is just a lot of stuff to do damage to.
Yeah, it looks a lot more like an ARPG end game.
Yeah, I want Diablo Crusaders. I want like lots of single hit large damage AoE spells, but to be wearing plate.
I mean, that's basically how I was building it. And I mean, like we said, it's really, really, really quick leveling, and your second character goes even quicker with a bit of refining and some power leveling from friends and stuff like that. I bet we can get it down to a day.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, I say, like, once you get a character to 50, you can just like summon a paladin, or you can get a paladin, and then you can just you get power pass, or that's knowledge transfer is the thing that costs 600 gold, and that'll just level another alt up to 50.
Yeah.
And then the end game's kind of just, do your dailies on one alt and then do your dailies on the other alt if you want to kind of like have a bunch of stuff or a bunch of characters that are scaling up, or a bunch of classes you want to play.
But basically, if you get to the end with your paladin and decide it's not quite what you're looking for, you'll probably just be able to buy a different character and play it instantly. And if you can't, it's like a day to level it. That's how I see it. It'll go quick. It's the gearing that takes the longest. Always.
Yeah, they don't even show level in guild tabs and stuff like that. They only show high level because that's the only thing that actually matters.
Yeah, because level is negligible. Yeah. Anyway, sounds like fun. I mean, we can get them all to top level and try them out. I'll start leveling I think I'm gonna go big sword dude. I'm sure it'll tank just fine.
Or gun lancer.
Yeah, the gun lancer seems cool, but I think big sword is more my jam.
Yeah, berserker or whatever they're called, they're cool too.
Yeah, I can just build it for, hopefully find some health drain or something like that, and shields, and I'm sure I can work it out. If not, and if it doesn't work, and if I absolutely need to be the gunblade dude, then I'll just buy a gunblade dude at 50 and I'll tank with that. Whatever. Ain't no thing to worry about. Okay, my Lost Ark isn't even loading right now, so I'm going to finish the stream and figure that out and eat some food and be right back. What do you think, Rage? Hour and a half?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Pseudo, you gonna join us?
Probably not tonight. Homework and stuff.
Cool. You get your work
we'll
done.
See how things go.
Yeah. Alrighty. So, thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed the work on the pen and paper game. We absolutely did. I had a lot of fun with this session. So, until next time, I'm Deus.
I'm Rage.
And I'm Pseudo.
And may all your shots be headshots.